we get started, like and subscribe. Thanks.
The most important thing about our sea kayak life is returning from the sea safely.
That is so true. And to us, there are 3 core skills that we feel like you should know before you go out to sea. And those are being able to get in and out of your boat, being able to rescue yourself and each other, and having a role that is reliable and solid.
Solid. But we're not claiming to be experts here. There's a lot of people out there that have certifications, they produce a lot of videos, there's books, and we encourage you to look at that. But these 3 things are very important to us.
And you've got to practice these. You can't be timid. You've got to have confidence in your skills when you're out to sea. And we've kind of learned the hard way, if you're timid, that can get you in trouble too. But at the same time, you need to have a healthy fear of the sea. And I used to have a t-shirt that said on the back, "Fear the Sea." And that's really important. It was a reminder to me to practice, 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 because these skills could save your life.
So let's take a look at one of our practices, and we're going to begin with exit and entry of your boat.
If you're going to be a kayaker, you will at some point fall in or flip your boat. It will happen. So to prevent this from being at minimum an embarrassing moment, or at worst a life-threatening experience, take the time to routinely practice. Again, this is how we do things. There are other techniques. Mark begins by rolling out of the kayak, sliding out slowly and coming to the surface. He moves to the bow, and with a hard kick, he lifts up and flips the boat over. Then he checks to see how much water is in the kayak. Water will make the kayak unstable. Mark then launches on top of the deck. Once balanced, he rolls over into his seat. Then he pivots his legs into the boat.
All right, one thing I want to talk about and dig in a little deeper is do not wear a spray skirt until you've practiced getting in and out of your boat, rolling over and popping out and swimming back up to the surface.
You know, it was easy for me when I first started out. People asked me, "Mark, aren't you worried about getting trapped underwater?" And I was like, well, no, every time my boat falls over, I just fall out like a ton of bricks.
Just pop out.
I just pop out. But we had a buddy that was wanting to wear a spray skirt. He was getting into sea kayaking, and he just wanted to keep the rain out, really. And we said, you shouldn't do that until you've practiced, because you don't want the first time that you're trying to get out, there's no one there to help you. And so we went to practice with him, and I'll never forget, he rolled over and he just panicked. He got disoriented, I guess, but he locked his knees in. And we couldn't get him out. Like, we were trying to turn him back over, and I'll never forget the look on his face. He was just very, very disoriented and panicked.
So when you do this, practice with a buddy. Make sure you've got somebody there. More than likely, you're just going to fall out of your boat and everything will be fine. But have somebody there with you for the first time that you do this. All right, we've talked a little bit about exit and entry, self-rescue. Now let's move on to rescuing your buddy.
In this scenario, Mark is capsized and is too fatigued to enter his kayak without help. He signals for help by waving and blowing his whistle 3 times. It's important for Mark to stay with his boat. In the ocean, if he gets separated from his kayak, the danger for both of us increases.
We okay?
I'm okay.
When I reach Mark, I set up to be on a right angle with his kayak and pull the bow onto my boat and drain the water. Then I put his boat parallel to my boat with the bow and stern opposite. I lay across his boat, giving increased stability. Mark can now with greater ease climb up on the back deck. If needed, I can grab his PFD and help him up. You may have noticed that our paddles were floating in the water. But if we were in the ocean, our paddles would be on leashes, allowing us to use our hands freely.
Okay, so we've talked about self-rescue and we've talked about the buddy rescue. And in our minds on the ocean, those are our plan B. Our plan A is a solid roll.
Solid. And let's face it, rolling is probably the harder skill to learn, but it's also very misunderstood. A lot of kayakers that are starting out will say, well, I need to learn this in case it happens. But it's not really in case it happens. In sea kayaking, being able to roll over and roll back up solid is something that you can use as a skill to protect yourself.
And even when you've got that skill, sometimes you don't always use it. One time I was paddling with Mark and we were in a little bit of a tossy-turvy situation. I got dumped, I got rolled. And instead of trying to roll back up, I pulled my spray skirt. And I put both of us in a little bit of jeopardy by doing that. It would have been so much easier if I just rolled up.
So true. So, we're going to show you now a couple of skills that we practice the most for rolling. And we're probably going to catch hell from some Greenland-style paddlers. And I respect those guys. Like, I bow down to those guys. These are the kind of guys that'll learn 17 new ways to roll before breakfast. And we try a lot of different techniques. We've learned a lot over the years. But our motivation is kind of, rather than being pretty good at 17 different things, let's be completely perfect at just a couple. And those things are a forward roll, a good solid forward right-hand roll, and also being able to roll off of your paddle blade, because sometimes when you wreck, you might not be able to get your paddle oriented right, but if you can just find the blade, you can use that.
So let's take a look at our roll practice.
When starting roll practice, I like to warm up by holding onto Mark's boat and working on my hip snap. Mark will often start by using his paddle to vault off the bottom. Next, we start with the forward roll. We've really learned over the years that a roll is not about power or strength, it's about timing and technique. I've been practicing slowing down my roll and minimizing effort.
Nice.
One thing we discovered, when you wreck in the ocean, your paddle may not be in the correct position.
Perfect.
Because of this, we've learned to grab a paddle blade to use as leverage for rolling. I use this technique a lot when I wreck. But beyond rolling when you get dumped by a wave, there's many times when we've rolled as a defensive move by rolling prior to a wave crashing on us, much like a surfer who will duck dive under a wave.
It looks great.
As we said before, a solid roll is plan A. Self-rescue or buddy rescue is our plan B.
That looked pretty good.
Yeah, it did.
It almost looks like we know what we're doing now. If you've seen one of our other episodes, we struggled rolling these boats. And, maybe I was just overly confident. I thought I could roll anything. I mean, I rolled a canoe once, but we had to figure some things out in practice.
So our motivation here is to show how we do things, our thought process. We want to remind you all to look for help, watch videos, look for a certified guide. And remember, these techniques need practice. You've got to practice because the ultimate goal is to return home safely.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to this channel. And here's 2 other videos that I think you'll like.